teardowns are totally free. We don't have any ads on our site that aren't for ourselves. We fund our mission by selling parts and tools that you're going to hopefully be using to do your repairs anyway. So please feel free to check that out. After the teardown, you can kind of come and poke around. Andrew's going to be tearing down the iPhone SE today, which we've actually already done a teardown on, but this is like the live version in the sense of Andrew's actually here doing it and not live as in, you know, breaking news or anything. So we'll kind of be following along with the teardown we have on the website, so you guys can see more of the depth that we go into with chip ID and hopefully blow up the photos. We've got a lovely camera person over here who will hopefully be showing most of the action. I know it's like a small phone and far away, but hopefully between teardown and camera, we'll be all set. But again, you guys can come up after the teardown to take a peek.
So we're ready to get started? We'll switch to the camera, and I'll show you guys what we're up against. Over there. Oh, no. OK, cool. All right, so this is the phone. It looks a lot like an iPhone 5S or an iPhone 5. In fact, this is my iPhone 5S, and it's nearly indistinguishable except for the fact that it's pink. And
rose gold. I'm sorry. Pink is not an Apple-approved
term. It's rose
term.
gold. And that, to me, OK, this is in a case, whatever. To me, that's actually really cool. They took an old, proven form factor. It's been around since the iPhone 5. And they were like, hey, some of our customers miss having a 4-inch phone. Let's take this phone that was really great and turn it into like some crazy souped-up sports car, put the fancy new Apple A9 processor in there, and sell it again. And it's been doing really well. People are pleased with it. So when we went to take this apart, we were basically going to compare it to an iPhone 5S. Be like, hey, this looks just like the iPhone 5S. Let's see what's different, what's the same. So we'll do the same today as we're mirroring through our previous teardown. From the outside, it's exactly the same. It's got the same smooth, no square home button because it has the Touch ID sensor on there. Sorry about the glare. There we go. All the same sensors and cameras. It does actually have an upgraded rear camera from the 5S. This is the same rear camera that's in the iPhone 6S, I believe.
I believe so.
And you open it up the same way as a 5S. And the way that you do that is by looking at these two tiny little screws here and getting out your magnifying glass and saying, what the heck is that? I don't have that screw. And that's because these are Pentalobes. These are 5-lobe screws that Apple has designed to make it hard to open your phone. They took a Torx, and they took off one of the lobes, and they said, there you go, good luck. And actually, during our very first teardown of a Pentalobe-equipped iPhone, our founder, Kyle, managed to, I guess, sharpen a flathead and get it in there and get the thing opened up. But we'd never seen that kind of screw before in our life. So now, there we go. Yep, that's great. Now we've got a screwdriver bit for that, and we sell it. And Apple has actually argued that because we sell this screwdriver, their phones are green because the tools are readily available, and you can open them. You're welcome. Thanks. So I'm going to go ahead and take these out, and we'll open it up.
Yeah, the Huawei recently released a phone that had Pentalobe screws as well, which was super weird and confusing, and like, why would you do this? It's a terrible screw. It's very shallow, and the lobes are very rounded, so when you get in there with your driver, if it isn't perfectly seated, if it isn't perfectly perpendicular, you may end up actually stripping that screw, especially if you take it out more than a couple times. And I believe the response is that, oh yeah, it's a really great screw.
Yeah, it's cool. Apple does it, so it must be good.
Experience.
All right, so this is one of my favorite tools. This is really cool. This is called the Ice Clack. You don't need this to do this, but it's really handy. It's just 2 suction cups on either end of a little lever arm. Boom, it pops open. I can do the exact same thing with a single suction cup, but this is way cooler.
This one is very convenient because, as you notice, it only opens to a certain aperture.
Right.
And if you look inside, there is a booby trap in here.
Yeah, I can't open this phone any more than that. And that's because there's this little, oh, there we go, pointing at the camera, this little cable that runs from the home button down inside the phone. And that's for the Touch ID. And that's actually something that Apple fixed on the 6 and above series. They ran that cable up underneath the display and then connected it at the top. But on the 5S and still the SE, you have to be careful about that cable when you're opening your phone, or you'll lose your Touch ID home button sensor. So luckily, we tore down the 5S already, so we knew what to expect. So I'm going to get in there, and there's a little metal bracket.
Probably going to go flying.
Yeah.
This is just a clip to secure the Touch ID, so if you do open it a little more forcefully, then hopefully maybe it stays attached.
And then I'm going to get in there with my spudger and disconnect the cable. There we go. And now I can open this the rest of the way.
So the Touch ID is kind of like our favorite thing to point to when we're talking about the importance of repair documentation. If you tried to open that phone with the wrong tools or having no idea what was inside there, then you do risk ripping that cable. And now Andrew knows exactly how to get in there, and we've shown the world. So now you know how to get there too.
All right, and now to prove how much Apple loves their really cool 5-lobe screw that they invented, they totally use it in every other screw inside the, no, actually every other screw is Phillips. So I'll put that away. I don't need that anymore.
This is kind of similar to the espresso machines in Europe, often have an oval screw on the very outside. It's usually only one, and it's usually one securing like the main panel, the access panel for the device. So you need this magical oval bit in order to get inside, but then inside everything is very standard. You've got Torx or Phillips or whatever. So it's going to be like the key that unlocks the elevator, you know, to get in there.
Oh yeah, the Fireman Master Key that's super hard to find.
Yeah,
and they don't sell on the internet.
Can't be 3D printed either. So Andrew's going in here and he's disconnecting the battery first thing.
Except he's using the wrong screwdriver.
We're not referring to the guys, we've done this a couple times, but. So really important to disconnect your battery before you go any further. It prevents shorts and you can damage your display if you don't do that first thing. There's got this bracket that's covering the battery connector to keep it secure so you don't end up with
keep talking, it's great.
with a disconnected battery. And yeah, so we're working on this. We've actually been using this tool set all throughout DAC to disassemble. We had a Nest out on the table. We have been disassembling like little drones, and then also in the previous teardowns, if you guys were here. So I think all the bits are back in the right spot, but it could be that we've misplaced them a little bit.
I'm gonna try from this fancier set over here.
Oh, wait, this is a great time to talk about our wonderful tools.
Oh,
so
sure.
Andrew is using the ProTech Toolkit, which is the black roll you see in front of you that has all the prying tools. We have specifically curated all of these bits based on the repair information that we've gathered and all the different bits that you need for small electronics like cell phones and tablets are going to be included in this ProTech kit. The Universal Bit Kit is the wooden box here, which is like really nice for Father's Day, by the way. We've got sales going on for that. I'm not actually selling things, I'm just trying to fill airtime here. But that has kind of a broader range of bits. It's got appliance stuff, and it's kind of like maybe your PC tower kit.
Okay, those screws came out. Good news. All right, so now I disconnected the battery. That's always my first step. And now I'm gonna try and get the display off just because it kind of bothers me to have all these cables. And I'm worried that I'm going to twist it and break something. And I do want this phone to keep working when I'm done, because I need an upgrade.
This one's actually only 16 gigs, which is really surprising for a cell phone. I mean, I guess Apple likes to sell their cloud service, so maybe that's the benefit there. But that's like 4 pictures, especially if you have this fancy upgraded camera. And they do like the live photos now, which is on by default, which I didn't know for the longest time. So I'm like, why do I have all these weird blurry photos of road signs and my lunch? And it's because I've been like taking the picture like this. Oh yeah, live view, perfect. That's really wonderful. I totally have an iPhone though. I'm like ragging on Apple, but like I really like it. I also have a rose gold one. It's very nice. So Andrew's taking off now the display bracket. This one keeps the digitizer and display cable and what else in there? The front-facing
camera, yeah, and all the sensors on there. There's a whole little cluster on the back of the display here that's got your earpiece speaker and your selfie camera and a proximity sensor that can tell when the iPhone is up against your face. So it'll turn the screen off, save power. Oop, let me make sure I'm not blocking the camera. Oh yeah, that's great. Shiny for you guys. Okay, so that bracket's off, and now all those cables are exposed, and I'm gonna just disconnect those with my spudger. See if I can do this in a way that you can see it. I'm gonna work left-handed.
So that kind of like black square, that's gonna be the earpiece speaker. The rear-facing camera you can kind of see behind the cables. There's a big LCD shield plate that's on there.
There we go. So there's the whole front panel assembly. I never know which way to move for you. There we go. And that's got that earpiece speaker that we talked about and all the other components. And your home button is still on here. Did any of you guys hear about error 53 when that happened?
It was a software problem where if you replaced your home button and then updated it, then your phone was like, hey, you've got error 53, too bad, time to throw me away. This was supposedly because people were using low-quality parts or going to third-party repair people was the first excuse that was used, and then they found out that it was happening to people who had their home buttons replaced in Apple stores as well, but they didn't get the proper hardware flashing for the Touch ID functionality. So we rose a big stink, a ton of other people rose a big stink, and Apple came down and said, oh yeah, whoops, sorry, that wasn't actually supposed to get out.
And it broke. It always breaks.
So now when you replace your home button, you lose the Touch ID functionality, which is a security measure. That makes sense. If it's supposed to be tracking your fingerprints, then okay, you don't want to be able to steal someone's home button and then have their fingerprint and buy stuff on iTunes on their account, I guess. Now Andrew's trying to get the battery out. The iPhone 5S started with these really cool battery tabs. They're kind of like those command strips. I don't know if you've ever used them, where you stick them on the wall and they stick really stiff, and then if you start pulling it, it stretches it out and starts to become not sticky. This is the same concept. It's kind of stretchier than the command strips and not as foamy. And it's kind of like eating really hot pizza where you've got the cheese stringing everywhere. So in 20 minutes or so, no, I'm kidding, it won't take that long. We'll have the strip pulled out. There's 2 of these strips, and it's really nice when they don't break. They quite often break, especially in older phones. But if they don't,
Getting there.
then the battery basically just explodes into your hand, which is really cool because having a glued down battery can be really hard to get in there and replace it, especially when the clearance to the logic board is basically super minimal. And then when you're prying against it, you risk knocking components off of the board,
So
which was the case previously.
I actually broke both of the strips from the start, pulled the first one up and got it out, and now I'm trying to dig out the second one.
Can you rotate or move your hand at all? Yeah. So they kind of like shrink back down. They originally have these black pull tabs. If I can. Tiny little black pull tabs. So Andrew's trying to grab the remainder of that sticky grossness.
Definitely the best part of the job right here.
Yeah, there you go.
And it broke again. All right, we're going to pry this battery out.
Time to go plastic opening tool.
So before the strips existed, this is how we had to take batteries out. And sometimes you end up bending one, but
Bending lithium batteries isn't super great, better than puncturing them, so we would try and use soft tools. Generally, we apply some heat. That kind of helps a bit too. But Andrew got one of the strips almost entirely out, and the other one kind of like maybe partway out, so I think we'll be okay. Plus, if it catches fire, like he's really far away from you guys, you'll be safe.
Just make the show a little better.
When we originally did the teardown, we had no idea these strips existed because they're black. The strips, as I said, the pull tabs are black and they're right up against the battery. You couldn't even tell they were there.
I didn't just break a spudger.
It's fine.
Nah, that didn't happen.
So one of our CEOs, actually, Luke, was out in Australia and he was trying to figure out how to get in there and was beasting it open, and the battery came out like a taco. It was really terrible. And then we're like, what's this like white adhesive down here? Had no idea that that's how the batteries came out. And then we may or may not have found Apple service manuals somewhere. Someone may have showed them to
There
us.
it is.
So
Not horribly mangled. All right, cool. And then, yeah, you can see the
there's
rest
what
of the
the
adhesive.
strip, yeah, looks like down there.
And now I can pull it out and it'll be super happy. Or I'll just not bother.
We'll just leave it in there.
Yeah.
It's fine.
All right, so what should we take out next? Oh, this is your spudger now.
Oh, okay.
I have a spare.
I'm sorry, this is like a total aside story, but we've got 2 other technical writers, and for some reason they really like travel spudgers, so they carve the spudgers down so they're really small, so it's like a little golf pencil or something. So instead of this long, unwieldy thing, then you've got like a teeny little, I don't know what the fascination is, but we've got like 12 of these short spudgers, and one day I was like, what is he doing here? I'm like, oh yeah, we cut those down. Those are the travel spudgers. Oh, okay. Are we going after the logic board? Oh,
Rear
rear-facing
camera, yeah.
Cool.
So
So this is the
tiny
main
screw.
camera. This one doesn't have optical image stabilization. I don't believe that's part of
correct.
the Plus series, but
Yeah.
still a much better improvement compared to the 5S. Unfortunately, the cameras are not compatible. You can plug the camera in, right? You can use, there's like some kind of cross compatibility.
Maybe, sure.
Some user was telling us that I think that you can swap the cameras because they have the right like pin connection, so the connector will work.
Between the 6S and the SE.
Right. But you don't get.
He thought it was an upgrade.
Yeah, yeah. That's what it was.
So now we're taking out the little vibrating motor. Oh, let me rotate this around so you guys can see it. There it is. Oh, this is such a great camera work.
Apple has used the Taptic engine, which is a haptic feedback engine in most of their devices lately, but this guy still has the off-weighted
the little rotating counterbalance vibrator. The new Taptic engine uses a linear oscillator that slides back and forth because that's better.
Which we have some x-rays on our 6S teardown of that working, which is really cool to see.
So, oh, absolutely. I'm actually putting all of my screws on my cool little screw chart here. And it's magnetic and it's dry erase. And so I will be able to put everything back where it goes. And I've done this at least once before.
Yeah, this phone actually mostly got taken apart. I don't remember how far. You had to take the logic board out for this one, right?
Yeah.
He replaced the lightning cable or connector on this guy, which is essentially the same thing, same basic concept. One thing we liked about this, aside from, hey, it's a nice 4-inch phone, is you're saving a lot of manufacturing waste by using the same systems and the same chassis and all that. You're not just up and moving to a completely different form factor. You're able to reuse those factories and machines and everything, which is very cool.
So this guy operates with a couple of spring contacts, and it gets its power from those two little gold pads. Yeah, that's the vibrator right there. All right, let's go maybe for the bottom end, and then we'll leave the logic board prize for last.
Yeah.
So this is what I like to call the everything cable down here. Hold it up. So in this one big assembly, you've got your lightning port, your connector for the Touch ID cable, your headphone jack, a microphone.
Antenna,
what else?
or is the antenna on the speaker?
There's an antenna on the speaker, which
Yeah.
thankfully is a separate piece. And there's something else on there, maybe another microphone or something. We'll see when we get it out. So I need to draw myself a neat little map for that whole bottom end. We'll take that speaker out first, which actually has a Wi-Fi antenna like taped onto it.
Yeah, it's like a little adhered sticker,
Yeah.
which also has like a washer to secure it to the screw ring, and sometimes that pops off, which is like excellent. We have an answers forum, which is a question and answers forum that you can go to if you have specific problems that are maybe more software related, since most of our guides are hardware related. But quite often we get, hey, so I have this extra part now that I put my phone back together. Where do you think it goes? It's like, I don't know, let's scroll through all the guides and see like this gold circle versus that gold circle. So, but they're very knowledgeable. We've got a couple guys who are on there like, I don't even know, like 24 hours a day. It's just like as soon as you post a question, if it's about cameras or washing machines or vacuums, like they're on it. There's a guy actually here in Texas, I don't know, in Austin, I think El Paso?
Lubbock.
Oh, Lubbock. And yeah, they've just like, you get points every time you answer questions, and if they're voted up and everything, and they've just got like more reputation than the entire iFixit company combined, because they're just like always there answering questions and being super helpful.
Oh yeah, can you tell them about reputation? What is that?
Yeah, reputation. That's what you earn when you're like awesome on iFixit. So as I said before, we're user contributable. Anyone can go on the site and contribute or edit or answer questions or ask questions. And anytime anyone interacts with your content or you interact with someone else's content, there's reputation exchanged. So when you post a guide and admin approves it, then we're saying, hey, that's awesome, super helpful for people. You'll get reputation for that. Every time someone says, this is an awesome guide, I used it, I completed it, or I really like it, then you get reputation for that. And that's kind of a way to gain access to more power on the site. So we use that to give moderation rights to users who can then like say like, okay, yeah, this is correct, and have more weight behind it. And we have a lot of really cool users who do that. So here's the speaker.
There you go. That's the loudspeaker that plays your tunes out the bottom of the phone. Just the one. not an iPad with quad speakers or whatever the iPad Pro has these days. All right, I think I've got all the little screws out of the everything cable, and now it's just glued to the bottom. So, oh, let me get that finger out of the way for you guys. So I'm just gonna peel it out.
Coming up real nice.
And a little bit of prying action. Normally I would use a bit of heat, but we're inside and it's air conditioned. There we go.
Perfect.
So this cable, we can unfold it and see what it looks like.
So it's got an antenna embedded in there too?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll put it on the table for you. So this little gold guy is a microphone, and that was living inside of this little rubber hat just to keep it protected. And that's your lightning port, which is a cool reversible USB, etc. port, and your headphone jack right there. This part is pretty much exactly the same as the one in my phone, in the 5S, except that it's got white details instead of black. That's it, though. That came with it. All right, I think we're ready to go to the logic board now. Now I just have to remember the screw pattern and take out all the remaining screws.
There's a super fun pass-through screw there too, huh? Standoff?
Yeah, there were a couple of standoff screws. That's what we decided to call them. And that's screws that are designed to take other screws on top. So when I took off, where did that go? This guy. When I took off this little cover plate from right here, it had 4 screws that held it in place. And then directly underneath 2 of those screws are more screws, this guy and this guy. And so those I have to use a flathead or a special standoff screwdriver to get them out. And then when I'm putting them back in, I usually put them on the tip of a spudger and spin it around. I'll go ahead and get those out right now. Woo, spinning
This
cool.
isn't something we see super commonly. Oftentimes when we're taking apart, especially the simpler Android phones, you'll take off the back cover, maybe pop out the battery if it's accessible, and then you'll remove, 8 to 64 screws that are holding the mid-frame in. You peel that back, and then everything kind of falls out of the phone because it's the screws that go all the way through that secure everything inside. And then sometimes individual components like cameras will probably be attached to the motherboard or perhaps clipped in underneath against the display. Quick work of those standoffs there.
There we go. We're almost at the end here. Maybe once we get this part out, then we'll switch to our teardown and look at the chips on it.
Yeah, for sure. So we have tons more details on the website itself about specific manufacturers or exactly how things work. We've got some really awesome VR headset teardowns that, we didn't actually do a VR headset teardown here, but we've got tons of information about how they work and how the optics work on that, which is really cool. We also have them at the office so we can play at them, and they all went back together, so really cool. There's some awesome demos in there. So we'll get Andrew to take out the logic board, and you'll be like, oh yeah, this is really cool. By the way, a logic board is just motherboard, but Apple calls it logic board, because of course they have to have their own name for everything. They renamed Pink. I mean, come on. So right now the board is covered in EMI shields and that kind of thing. So Andrew probably won't be taking those off, but we can switch eventually to the teardown and show you what's underneath those guys.
Oh, and I forgot one very important piece. This little guy.
I always forget this one. Seriously, always forget it.
So the SIM slot goes through and sort of locks the logic board in. You can see that. So that comes out. Now I think I've got everything. And almost free, except there is one little connector there on the bottom. That antenna guy. So I'm going to disconnect that with my spudger. There we go. So all of the power is in this tiny little board right here.
Okay, and if we can switch to the teardown, scroll through.
Hey, AV guy, can we switch?
Can we go to the website? So here, the tiny black and silver box that Andrew is holding is actually this plethora of chips. So we've marked up all the important chips / the ones we could actually identify and have them color-coded so you can see who all is in there. And we've got 2 images for the front, I think, right? And maybe 1 for the back.
Yeah, we won't bore you guys by listing off the companies that you work for. But if you want to check it out and see who's in there, that's all on our teardown.
So the last piece of this puzzle, after we've taken everything apart, is the repairability score. So after we do this fancy layout and like, ooh, that's really awesome, I love seeing what's inside of these gadgets, we apply a grade to the device. And iPhones generally score pretty well. There's some really good industrial design that goes into these things. And for an ordinary user, pretty easy to get in there and exchange their things. The points they get docked for are the everything cable, where everything is completely in one part. You're going to have to replace everything. If your headphone jack goes out, then you're like, can't just replace that. Have to replace everything with it. Same with the display. It's all fused together, so you can't take the glass and digitizer away from the LCD very easily. That's like a higher level repair. So all in all, 6 out of 10 is not too bad. 10 is the very best. The only phone to have scored a 10 on our website is actually the Fairphone. They included repair manuals for their phone and have repair parts that are available. And it's very modular and it encourages the user to actually get into their phone. So that's pretty much my presentation. If you guys have questions, we've got a microphone we can pass around.
Yeah, I'm wondering, do you replace with used parts or new parts? This is kind of like with the used parts. It reminds me of like going to the junkyard or something.
Yeah,
is that what happens? Or?
We've got a couple of different sources. We source new parts for a lot of Apple products, and we also have a partnership with an electronics recycler to source refurbished or used parts for parts that are a lot harder to get, like Kindles and GoPros and headphones. So we're able to pull basically garbage devices out of the waste stream and part them out and then sell those as refurbished or used parts on our website. And that's yeah, and that way we have a cheaper option as well.
Yeah, sure.
So once you guys open it up, it violates the warranties? Or?
Yes, yes.
Usually, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. We advocate out of warranty repairs. If you've, like, say, you're past your warranty, you have this device, is it garbage now? No, you can keep it living longer. Or sometimes the in-warranty repair will be more expensive than doing it yourself, and maybe you want to take the risk. We don't want you to waste a free way to get it fixed if the manufacturer is willing to do it for you, but when they leave you in the lurch, we want to be able to step in and help out.
Yeah, exactly. We also like to encourage manufacturers to actually repair their devices and not just ship you a new one and then pitch the other one in the bin, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with Apple's Liam robot, where, oh, it disassembles the device and sorts it all out, and you're like, oh, and then you can sell the parts, right? And the parts can go and fix broken phones. No, they just put those parts in a shredder, but now they're sorted parts in the shredder, so it's cleaner garbage. Anyway, please.
Yeah, so the tools that you end up needing that don't exist, like the one that you were just talking about here, so what is that process for figuring out how to make those, and do you work with some other manufacturer to get those, or what do you have to go through to get these new tools made?
Right, so we actually have a tool department downstairs that worked furiously trying to do that. Luckily, we had some experience manufacturing screwdrivers because that's what we do for a living. So basically, it was find as many of those screws as we can and try and shape a driver. And we're going back and forth to our suppliers down there and fitting everything and getting test parts and trying to make sure that the bit is going to be hard enough and that it matches all of those things. And luckily, in the case of the iPhones, it was just the one size of Pentalobe, so it was like, okay, like we can fit it to this one. But thereafter, there have since been more Pentalobes. Now they're in the bottom of MacBook Pros. There's a ton of them down at the bottom. So we have now a range between the P2 Pentalobe and the P5 Pentalobe, I believe. So kind of trial and error and working with manufacturers. And now they're available at large. And yeah, Apple can be like, oh yeah, our tools are everywhere. Totally legit.
Do you have most of your toolkits and stuff on non-US, with non-US distributors? So in Europe, most specifically, are most of your parts available, or all of them, or?
Yeah, we actually have a iFixit branch in Europe. We had 2 German guys come to us and say, listen, Europe loves repair. This is super important. Crazy expensive to ship over there. Like, we need to help. So they started an office in Stuttgart, Germany. We've got about 25 employees now there. And they ship to the EU and a little bit beyond. And they've actually helped start translating the site into German and French, and we're going to be rolling out to Italian and Spanish pretty soon. So yeah, that'll be the best option, is to go to the EU store, and you'll be able to get shipping from there much cheaper. Any other questions? Okay, if you guys don't have any questions you want to say by microphone, we can switch off our mics and you guys can come up and poke around and see all the Apple parts and the iPhone parts. And once again, thank you so much for having us. And yeah, have a great day.